The night I survived the Zodiac Killer. Let me take you back to the night it happened. A night I'll never forget, no matter how much I wish I could. It was July 4th, 1969, Independence Day, a day meant for celebration, fireworks, and fun. But for me, it became a night of terror, a night where I stared death in the face and somehow walked away. It started off innocently enough. Darlene Ferrin, Darlene, with her sparkling eyes and warm smile, had picked me up in her little white Corvair. She was like no one I'd ever met, full of life, always laughing, always making everyone around her feel special. That night she seemed a little distracted, though. Something was on her mind, but she didn't talk about it. "Let's go for a drive," she said. "I know a quiet spot where we can just relax." I didn't ask questions. I was just happy to spend time with her. She had that kind of presence that made everything feel lighter, even when the world felt heavy. We drove around for a while, windows down, the cool night air brushing against our faces. Fireworks were going off in the distance, their colors painting the sky. Eventually, we ended up at Blue Rock Springs Park. It was a quiet place, tucked away from the city, a spot where you could just sit and talk without anyone bothering you. We parked in the lot, away from the other cars. It was late, and the area was mostly deserted, the sound of distant fireworks mixed with the chirping of crickets. For a while, we just sat there, talking about everything and nothing at the same time. That's when the first car showed up. The headlights were blinding as the car pulled in behind us. At first I thought it might be a cop. You know, the usual. Two people parked late at night in a secluded spot. But something about the way the car just sat there made me uneasy. "Do you know who that is?" I asked Darlene. She glanced back, her face tightening just a little. "No, probably just someone messing around." I didn't believe her. There was something in her voice, something that didn't match the carefree Darlene I knew. After a minute or two, the car backed up and drove away. I started to relax, thinking whoever it was had lost interest. But then the car came back. This time it pulled up even closer, parking right next to us. The driver got out, a heavy-set man in his late 20s or early 30s. He was holding a flashlight, which he pointed directly at us, blinding me. "Can I help you?" I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. He didn't answer. Instead, he raised his hand, and in it was a gun. The first shot shattered the window, and everything after that was chaos. Glass flew everywhere. My chest exploded in pain as the bullet tore through me. I couldn't even process what was happening. Darlene screamed, her voice piercing the night, but it was cut off by more gunshots. I don't know how many times he fired, 3, 4, maybe more, but each shot felt like a hammer blow, the sound echoing in my ears. I felt a sharp, burning pain in my neck and chest. My vision blurred, and the world seemed to tilt. I thought it was over, but then I heard him walking back to his car. Relief flooded me for a split second, but then the footsteps came back. He leaned into the car and fired again. I remember the flash of the muzzle and the way my body jerked with the impact. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. All I could do was sit there, feeling the life drain out of me. Then he was gone. For what felt like an eternity, I just sat there, slumped in the seat, bleeding and barely conscious. My ears were ringing and everything hurt. I turned my head, or tried to. That's when I saw Darlene. She wasn't moving. "Darlene," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Darlene, wake up." She didn't respond. I don't know what kept me going. Maybe it was adrenaline, maybe it was sheer willpower, but somehow I managed to unbuckle my seatbelt and crawl out of the car. Every movement was agony. Blood was dripping from me, pooling on the ground, but I didn't care. I had to find help. I stumbled toward the road, waving my arms as headlights approached. The car stopped and a group of teenagers got out. Their faces went pale when they saw me. "Help," I croaked. "Please." They didn't hesitate. One of them ran to call the police and the others stayed with me, trying to keep me awake. "You're gonna be okay," one of them said, though I could see the fear in his eyes. "Just hang on." The ambulance came and I was rushed to the hospital. I don't remember much of the ride, just the blur of sirens and the sting of the wounds. At the hospital, the doctors worked on me for hours. They told me later that it was a miracle I survived. But Darlene didn't. She died at the scene and I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. The police came to question me while I was still recovering. I told them everything I could remember about the man, the way he looked, the way he moved. Heavy-set, dark hair, deliberate. A few weeks later, the newspaper started publishing letters from someone calling himself the Zodiac. The letters described the attack in chilling detail, things only the killer could know. It's been decades since that night, but it's never really left me. Every time I close my eyes, I see the flash of the gun, hear the sound of Darlene's scream. I survived, but it doesn't always feel like it. That night, something inside me changed forever. The Zodiac Killer was never caught. He's either dead now or still out there, somewhere laughing at the fear he left behind. But I'm still here, I'm still breathing, and that's something he couldn't take from me.